So, do you all remember a little dickwad named Steve Shives? I'm pretty sure some of you might know who that is. Well, I'm going to copy him in a matter of speaking. He had a series on An Atheist Reads, is what they were called. And it's one of the few things I actually liked about his channel. It was pretty cool. He'd go through the apologetics books and read them and then go, what the fuck? And then pull out all the quotes, either in or out of context, but at least he'd explain the context, then quote the part, and then he'd destroy it, or at least fairly destroy it. I was entertained nonetheless. Well, I'm going to do the same thing, but to something he loves. Because in my last video, which actually did pretty well, surprisingly, I went through deconstructionism and demonstrated how retarded it is, philosophically. Well, I'm going to do the same thing because I went and bought a book. This book, right here, in my hands. This is the book I'm going to destroy. And I thought I'll do a little preview of what I plan to do. So I have gone through the foreword at least, and my God, is this book written by a racist? Racists, plural, because there's multiple authors, there's multiple schools that are involved that help get this thing published. Texas A&M, for example, one of the more prestigious military schools. Its law firm and critical race studies and critical studies, something's cultural studies helped make it. See, the thing is about this little religious cult thing they got going on is it's an academia. So they all believe at that point in time that it's scientific in nature. Critical theory. Because they put theory behind it because they were academics to begin with, knowing that theory is an explanation of the way things work. But it isn't an explanation about the way things work. That is the problem with critical theory. It is a deconstruction of the way things work with glasses on or a visor. So if you only see things in a certain way, you must therefore necessarily assume things function in that way because you've blinded yourself with bias. So when you sprinkle bias all over everything, it tends to distort your perception of reality. The first chapter, I've gone through first little part of it, and haven't completed it yet. But let's just say that just the opening statements demonstrate that they go out of their way to view everything in the context of race. Quite literally everything. If anything, this critical race theory isn't deconstructing or putting a critical lens on anything. It's teaching people how to be racist. That's what it's doing. If you see everything in the context of race, therefore everything will become racist. This is why they say unconscious bias makes everyone racist. I did a video on Matt Dillahunty on the atheist experience not too long ago where he flat out said, well, everybody's racist, and it just, you can't help it. It's a part of your unconscious biases that we're just kind of all born racist. I'm like, motherfucker, do you not realize that you are making the original sin argument for this goddamn shit? Everyone's born racist, but you don't have to be. You just need to be more cognizant of race. Yeah, okay. Everyone's born with original sin, but you don't have to be. You can pray the sin away. Trying to be more righteous under God. by practicing these tenets, which also are kind of sinful. You can't get rid of it. You can't wash it off. Well, unless, of course, you're born-again Christian or some of the other cult shits, that there's a way out. Trust me, there's a way out.
My friend, stop all this talk. Teach him a lesson.
Let me read. I wrote down some notes. I'm just going to read it. It's kind of like a script almost, because I put it in paragraph form. It didn't intentionally want to do this. I wanted to put bullets so I wouldn't forget what I'm talking about, and then drop quotes in. But maybe this will work. We'll see. I don't know. I would reach out to Steve Shives and talk to him, but last time I talked to him, he was thinking about doing a apologetics book on Islam, and I was like, I haven't really seen one. Here's a couple that I found that are kind of close. You could try those. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And the next thing I know, blocked. It's because he installed or did a block bot, and since I followed some people he didn't like, I instantly got blocked for some reason. I was like, oh, well, all right. Yeah. This is before I started my YouTube channel, actually. So, whatever. Good on you, Steve, for being a douchebag. So, I did this on the foreword, so this is just a teaser. I hope you enjoy. Within the first paragraph, we see the stage set for a mindset from Angela Harris. Angela Harris is the one that wrote the foreword. She's faculty at UC Davis, where she teaches critical race theory, feminist legal scholarship, and criminal law. And indeed, she is a lawyer. But as she writes the foreword, I can see the perception she has of reality and why she went down this path. The first thing in this book she notices is her first year in law student when the demographics of her classmates and educators. It wasn't about experience, the things she learned, or how it might influence her in her critical racist theory. It was all about the demographics. She felt disoriented, and the discussion of race and gender was missing. No one talked about feminism or their concerns in law school. No one discussed race. To quote her own words, there was only one law. A law that in its universal majesty applied to everyone without regard to race, color, gender, or creed. I thought race and color are the same thing with these people. So why the distinction? But that quote stood out to me. She felt something that was profoundly missing in her education. So she went outside of legal discourse to find it, like any good racist would. After she completed her degree in 1989, so to give you context of how long this has been going on, she attended her first critical race theory seminar, and the rest is history. And then she helped codify the doctrine of racism. To quote, critical race theory has exploded from a narrow subspecialty of jurisprudence, chiefly of interest in academic lawyers, to a literature read in departments of education, cultural studies, English, sociology, comparative literature, political science, history, and anthropology. So anywhere there's the studies of humans, this shit has found its way in. It started as a seminar, a goddamn seminar, and expanded to everything academia touches, and basically mutated into the most repugnant thing ever, and now it's in your company, my company. It's everywhere. It made its way into institutions until Trump shut it down. Anywhere that critical race theory is taught is no longer allowed within the federal system. States won't do this. States can't do this. I think the next step he should do is any college or university that is federally funded should no longer get their funding so long as this is taught in their schools.
Put my plan into effect.
She points out at the end of one of the core tenets of the racist in this field. To read this primer is to be sobered by the recognition that racism is a part of the structure of the legal institutions, but is also to be invigorated by the creativity, power, wit, and humanity of the voices speaking about ways to change that structure. Abolish the police. That's the way they're going to change it. Defund the police. That's the way they're going to change it. They want to deconstruct everything because that's what critical theory is about. Deconstruction of the paradigms. It looks for a problem and says destroy it. It provides no solutions. None whatsoever. Zero. It does not provide alternatives. Unless, of course, they're couched in racism. So, what amazes me in her willful ignorance is she demonstrates in 3 short pages what it's like and how to become a racist. 7 paragraphs earlier, she stated that law was universal and must be applied to everyone without any regard to demographic. But later she asserts that its foundation is racist. If that foundation of our legal system was racist, why did the law professors at her university teach that it doesn't matter? Why did the professors go out of the way to note that gender, race, sex, and any other characteristic does not matter in the eyes of the law because the law should be blind? If the system was couched in this racist, horrific, horrible thing, why wasn't legal systems and lawyers and everybody else teaching about it? Or was it that she expected to find racism and they weren't teaching it? Because she knew that it was racist. Now think about this. 1989 is when she was going through her third... Oh, this is after she completed her degree, 1989. So 1978 was when it was codified, basically, that civil rights should be granted to all. 1978 was when Utah decided to adopt civil rights. We were the last state. About 12, 14 years before that, I think it was 12, that's when Martin Luther King was protesting, was pushing for civil rights, was pointing out that, your legal system right now is kind of fucking racist. Jim Crow, it's fucked up. You shouldn't be doing it. Stop. You shouldn't be segregating by color. It's not cool. You want us to live together in harmony. Well, how about you make some harmony instead of segregation? Because segregation does not create harmony. It creates classes, creates separation. It creates a repugnant system. And I'm sure I'll have more to say on the matter, which is why I didn't really like the way I formatted this. These were notes, and I just kind of read you my notes. And I noticed that my English isn't very good in my notes, because, well, I'm not an English major. Go figure. But there was much in that foreword that disturbed me. The fact that she went through law school and they made no mention of anything that she was concerned with pissed her off. So she thought she'd insert everything that she's concerned with into it. And now it's everywhere within law. The critical theory, critical race theory, critical gender theory, and all that other shit is required reading in some of the schools of thought. You go into sociology, it's required. Leadership studies doesn't require it yet, but it's coming. But that was her problem. She looked at the demographics within her UC Davis, University of California, Davis. And you know what? All professors were white, and only 2 were female. Oh my God, the tragedy.
What are you up to?
Can't you see that I'm trying to learn something?
I've told you before, you're not here to learn.
I can't help but notice, but in 20 years prior to 1989, when she got her degree, Jim Crow was in effect. In fact, she might have been alive during this time, because it really doesn't call out how old she was when she attended college. She might have been like me, a late start, because I didn't go to college until about 22. Her perception must have been warped early on. I mean, she had parents that lived through segregation, if you think about it. And those parents that lived through segregation, they actually jaded their kids quite well. There's a guy I talked to, well, at least I used to until lockdown, every day. I know pretty much a good portion of his life story, because he's got some perspective. He's 70 now. His dad lived through Jim Crow in the South, and was also unable to read. He's illiterate. He would never sign a ticket without having somebody else there that could read, and he trusted to tell him the truth. Because the cops would lie, put it on a ticket, and then write it down, and then he'd sign to it, and the next thing you know, you're off to jail for something you didn't do. Even though the cop wrote you a ticket, doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Funny that. You would think that kind of dishonesty never happened, but it was Jim Crow. Around those times, people were racist as fuck. And just think, I'm 2 generations removed from that. That's her perception. Her parents probably went through Jim Crow, went through segregation, went through beatings from white people, white mobs. Police got involved. The police took the white people's side because the laws were written to be racist. Then something changed. Something profound changed. The civil rights laws were written. Those civil rights laws changed our legal foundation. So when she stepped in to get a legal degree, and she didn't find any mention of race, sex, color, or whatever, it was because it was forcefully removed by her forebears, by people that look just like her, that went and marched against this shit. Bernie Sanders. One of the things I respect about him is that he was a part of those marches. He was there at UC Berkeley. He was arrested for fighting for civil rights. I respect that. There's a few other guys that was involved in that was in our Senate. Ended up being grotesquely racist now because they adopted this critical race theory, because they too noticed that the civil rights laws stripped race, sex, gender, orientation, all that shit out of the law. Out of it. It got removed by force. Rightly so. And when I say force, I don't mean Antifa's type of force. They didn't go burn fucking villages down because they're mad at something. No, they went, they protested, people listened, it got changed.
All our hard work for nothing.
This stuff was removed on purpose. There was intent behind its removal. She wants to bring it back. This Angela Davis wants to bring race, gender, and all that shit back into law to make equality. Or equity, actually. It's not even equality. She wants to level the playing field. No, she does. It's level. By removing all those things, everyone's treated equally. That's level. There is no special favors and special treatment. That is, unless you have millions of dollars and can afford a lawyer and get out of pretty much anything you want. Seems fair, right? Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's not how this world works. At least for now. Because we have a fat, bad orange man in office that's removing critical race theory from the federal government. Well, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this. This is just the foreword. I'm going to go through each. This is how I'm going to break it down. I'm going to go through each chapter. This thing is actually, it's pretty short. I mean, this guy is 160 pages. It's got suggested readings, and then it's got a glossary of terms. It's like 5 fucking pages long. So they spell out their glossary of terms because they have to redefine everything for shit to make sense. For example, accent discrimination. Discrimination, for example, by an employer against a worker on the basis of foreign-sounding accent, or the assumption that a native English speakers should not have to make an effort to understand accented English.
I am dumbfounded.
I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.
Buddha will come to you. It is destined he will call you, and sooner or later you will become enlightened. Buddha be praised.